Philly. Oh yes, here we go. Here we go. Okay. Hey girl. Oh no, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
good.
for some reason my sound went off.
Oh, thank God, because half the time, like, I get someone on, then I'm like, yeah, can't hear anything.
That's usually me. I'm really technologically challenged, so thanks for your help.
Well, you've nailed it. This has
Thanks.
been an easy so far. Where
But
are you at the
I am in Merseyside. That's where I'm based now. Um, I'm currently sat on my kitchen floor. You know when you just
moment?
try and find the right light.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah.
So yeah, all good.
Okay, so I wanted you especially on to speak about intuitive eating because I know you put out a lot of good information about that kind of topic. And you've been in amazing shape yourself. You get loads of your clients in amazing shape, but you're not always just getting people to track using MyFitnessPal. Um, and I personally think that it's a really useful tool, but long term, it's like, I mean, this is a bold statement, but like as unsustainable as like other fad diets, because really you don't want to be tracking everything you eat on your phone or on an app for the rest of your life like that. That doesn't make any sense. And as much as it's flexible dieting, in my eyes, that is not flexible.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think there are some. I think there are some exceptions of people. You know, people that really love structure. Then those people, great. You know, I have a couple of clients that have been with me for quite a long time, and they just don't want to intuitive eat. They love having that structure, and that's fine. But you're quite like me. Ultimately, the end goal for most people, like competitors aside, is that they can live away from MyFitnessPal. I think a couple of years ago that wasn't even like a consideration. Like I remember tracking something at my granddad's funeral, and I just thought, this is not normal. This is not normal. It was quite soon after competing and stuff like that, but I think a couple of years ago it was normal, and it's nice that there's this transition away from that now. Um,
well, I think it's fun. You totally get like obviously we're in this fitness bubble where we think like this stuff is normal. So my one of my flatmates is into fitness. Um, she's competed a few times, and my other flatmate, like she's not, she's plays basketball. She's really fit and healthy, but she's not in the fitness world. And she saw that Claire, my other flatmate, was like weighing out porridge, and she was like, "What are you doing? Like, what?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to put it in like to see how much I'm." And actually, like we think that's quite a normal thing now, but it's not normal. Like to
yeah,
people out are like fitness bubble, like tracking everything you eat or weighing out food, like it's not normal.
I know, and in the olden days, it would have been ridiculous. I remember when I started tracking my own food and I brought my scales into like my PhD office, and the boys were like, "That's absolutely ridiculous." And I was like, "Oh no, everyone weighs their food. It's normal." Um, but yeah, you know, you don't want to be carrying food scales around for your whole life. Oh,
People lost weight and got in amazing shape before MyFitnessPal was invented.
yeah. I th- I think the prob I think I think the issue now is that you're quite like me. You are between both worlds, in the sense of you think tracking is useful for some people, and you think intuitive eating is useful for some people. But then you've got the people who claim intuitive eating is the only way to go and mock diet culture in one camp, and then you've got the people that mock intuitive eating and they are evidence-based sort of macro trackers on the other camp. And I think the problem is we're trying to blur the lines because you can do both. I think it's the issue, I suppose, with it is people that try and jump from tracking to intuitive eating kind of straight away. And that's what gives it sort of the bad reputation that some people seem to have of it.
Yeah, you're totally right. And with so many things in fitness, it's like this false dichotomy that you either track calories or you eat intuitively. There's no middle line. There's no like, okay, well actually I normally eat intuitively, but sometimes I track calories if I want to lose a little bit of weight for X, or or maybe if I know that I'm eating out quite a lot, I'll track calories then because I've got less control over the foods I'm eating. You know, there's certain times where it might be useful.
Yeah.
Sorry, someone's just...
Yeah, your face is frozen. I didn't know if it was my phone, but someone just commented saying it was frozen.
Is it still?
It's still frozen on mine. I'm just listening to your words really intently.
Oh, well, you know what? That's fine. Hopefully
it's a nice
a weird...
screen. It's a nice picture of your face.
Okay, hopefully it just figures itself out.
Yeah.
So Dan Osman, he says, "Hi ladies, what's your thoughts on number fatigue in the act of tracking itself can cause a deliberate rebel?" I'm not totally sure what you mean. Do you know what he means?
Number fatigue as in a deliberate rebel. Dan, explain what you mean by a deliberate rebel, please.
Yeah.
I'd rather you just explained a little bit so that we answer it right, I think.
Yeah. I guess what everyone wants to know is sort of what are your tips? So if someone's like feels that they have to track but they want to move towards intuitive eating, what would your sort of first tips be, and like how might someone go about that?
So I think, you know, determining whether you're in the position to intuitive eat in the first place is really important. I think that some people can see people intuitive eating and they think that's what I want to do, and so immediately they jump into saying that's what they're going to do. And I don't think that always it's the best option. Like we've said, I think determining if, you know, if you've been tracking food for a long time, for example, okay, that's one tick, then potentially intuitive eating is for you. If you don't have any sort of extreme goals, any sort of extreme maybe condition goals or fat loss goals, again, that might be for you. If you have a sound food-based knowledge, so you know what protein is, you have a rough idea of serving sizes and all of those things that come with prolonged tracking, then great, that's like tracking might be for you. And making sure that you don't use food as any sort of emotional control. And I think that's where people get a bit confused. They think that coming away from tracking is going to help them stop emotional eating, and it doesn't work like that. I think if you are still using food as some sort of emotional control, then going into intuitive eating isn't the right thing for you to do at that point. So I think really just making sure, first of all, that you're in that position and you kind of tick those boxes as somebody that potentially could intuitively eat is the first thing you want to do, rather than just kind of seeing it as something that's quite easy and you've seen it on social media. I don't know, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I completely agree with your points, and I'd probably say that for most people it works better. So say you've lost the fat that you need to lose, and then you're looking at maintaining this body.
Exactly.
So then what are the habits that are surrounding my diet now that I can just keep doing without having to track everything?
Yeah.
And what's quite like almost a bit funny is that, you know, a lot of my clients will be like, oh, you know, I don't want to track anymore. And I'm like, you eat basically the same thing every day. Like, you don't really need to track that you've had exactly the same meal every day. But it's almost this like obsession with numbers on my pal now that, oh, look, or, you know, you'll get like a notification saying, oh, well done, you've tracked for the last 100 days. And they're like, oh, but I don't want to lose my 100-day streak.
Yeah. I think this is the thing. So I think it's just about phasing it in. So people like that. So I literally said to a client earlier, actually, we're going to start implementing one intuitive day a week. And I said, I don't care if you eat the same thing that day as you normally do, but I don't want you to put it into MyFitnessPal. And that can be scary enough for some people, like you said, those people that are so attached to that number and that kind of 100 days on MyFitnessPal. So even just doing that one small thing is quite a big deal for some people. But it's quite easy to kind of phase it in. And I don't know how you do it, but there are a few options you can do. So you can do one day of intuitive eating each week, and it can be any day. And like I said, it can be the same food that you normally eat. Or it could be, you know, you don't track your vegetables moving forwards, so you only track everything else. And so even that's quite scary, because it means that your macros are not bang on target. And for people that are really obsessed, that can drive them crazy. But, you know, getting out of the habit of of tracking vegetables, or just setting protein targets and calorie targets to begin with, and then taking away the calorie targets. There's a number of different ways that you can do it kind of slowly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely similar to the approaches I take, and often I'll maybe leave in like tracking fats because they can be so easily overeaten, but you know, other foods that you kind of know that you can eyeball. And like you were saying, if someone's been tracking for a while, they kind of know from looking at a meal roughly how many calories are going to be in it, and they know portion sizes, and they don't really have to weigh things because they can estimate roughly what that's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But fats are still very easy to overdo it, and there's always those infographics of like, I don't know, peanut butter or bread on the two, and it's double the calories, and you're like, oh my god, like that's ridiculous.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think you would hope by that point that people do have that understanding of fats. And a lot of the time with my clients, before they get to that stage, they only have a calorie and a protein target. So they still have to meet their calories, but they can do so from fat or carbs. And so some days they'll have higher fat and some days they'll have higher carb, because we know that that doesn't make a difference for body composition. But it allows them that flexibility in fat so that they can really see what they get, like their bang for their buck, so to speak, so that when they do move more to intuitive, they do have that little bit more understanding of the fat servings and stuff, which I find quite useful.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess part of it's realizing that like the reason you've lost weight isn't tracking on MyFitnessPal. It's the behaviors and the changes in food intake that you've made. Yeah. And I guess almost giving yourself a little bit of credit that actually you did that and you can do it without tracking.
Yeah. Provided they've done it under the right guidance and the right support in the first place, of course. Mm-hmm. Because
for anyone, like tracking for a period of time is a complete eye-opener, and it's a big like education tool.
Yeah.
I think everyone should do it for a period of time. And even I'm sometimes surprised now when I'll go back to like, tracking for a day or two, and I'll like have a look at what things add up to, and you're like, damn, that's, and I've been years, so there's still little things where like calories sneak in and you don't even consider it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's loads of research obviously that shows that just tracking your food and not changing anything reduces your calorie intake, because you don't even realize what you're eating until you track it. So yeah, that's not to say tracking's the only way to lose body fat. We know obviously that there are other methods, but if you want to transition into intuitive eating, then yeah, a period of tracking, usually a prolonged period of tracking, we both know is useful first and essential really first.
Definitely. So we had a few questions, and I can't see them now because we're on this. But, I think one of them was about eating post-show.
Yes.
And I know that you eat it a couple of times, so maybe like you're best to answer that.
Yeah. I think post-show, first off, is really, 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 really horrible for everybody. There'll be a couple of people that say it doesn't bother them, and that's fine. But most people, the majority of people, can struggle post-show. And it's the first thing you have to do is just accept that it's going to be a bit rough, and accept that you have to be a little bit compassionate towards yourself before you even think about your food. It's a hard time, and you have to kind of accept that and just ride with it until it's over. So I think the question was something like they were binging post-show, I think, wasn't it? I just try and look at them.
Yeah, it was, she said she couldn't feel full post-show.
Yeah. I think one of the issues that people have post-show, there's a couple. The first one is people afraid to put their calories. People should put their macros basically back to maintenance a couple of days after the show, if not straight after the show. And I think that people are really scared to put their calories straight back to maintenance because they think that they're going to immediately gain all of this body fat. If your maintenance is worked out correctly, and you kind of taper down your cardio with time, that's not going to happen. The only reason you'll gain body fat is if you start binging or overeating on top of your maintenance calories. And so that's one of the reasons that I find people binge, is when they're not eating their maintenance calories, so they're hungry. Another issue is when people immediately think, so you've dieted and you get these ridiculous cravings for ridiculous foods. And people go, oh, it's post-show and I'm flexible dieting, so I'm going to put in a Pop-Tart every day. And all that happens is that they reduce their food volume, and so then they're still really, really hungry. And then they end up binging because they're hungry because they've used all their calories on this food that they've been obsessing over for the last 3 months. So I think ideally you want most of your foods to still come from your prep foods, just in higher volumes, and just that alone should make you feel fuller because you are eating more food, significantly more food than you were eating on prep. That's the best thing you can do in terms of trying to minimize hunger. A lot of the time the binging doesn't come from hunger, it comes from cravings and that lack of ability to regulate your hunger, or recognize your hunger that comes with dieting. But yeah, I think people just try and squeeze in all of these foods too early. I think over time, slowly introducing them into your macros is great. Maybe every week introducing a new food, or not as a too early. I think over time, slowly introducing them into your macros is great. Maybe every week introducing a new food, or not as a cheat meal, but into your macros. And then after a couple of weeks or a month, then yeah, you can start having a lot more flexible intake.
Yeah, I think the problem I've seen with people post-show is like not having a plan. So they go from this ridiculously structured, their training, their nutrition, everything is so structured, to after the show, they're just like, oh, like I didn't really consider what I was going to do after this. Like I've just, and a lot of people now know the importance of that, and they stay working with their coach or their prep coach, and they sort of quote unquote reverse diet out of it. And we know that reverse diet is a bit of a fad, but in terms of, I guess, upping your calories slowly and not just going, oh, like I can eat whatever I want now, and like that's where the binging starts, and that's where you end up putting on a whole load of weight after the show. And
yeah. And I think I've written a blog on this before. I think reverse dieting can really work for some people. I haven't done it. I think I did it after my first show, but I binged a lot after my first show. And I had a great coach at that time. It was like 5 years ago, but I just didn't know what I was doing. And that's the only time I reverse dieted. And since then, I've never reverse dieted. I just put my calories in a slight surplus. And just doing that alone is, if you've got a binge mentality and if you binge a lot, putting your calories daily above maintenance slightly, if it stops you from binging because you're not hungry, it's still going to be lower calorie intake per week than it would if you were at maintenance calories and binging twice a week.
And when you talk about your maintenance calories after competing, are you talking about your maintenance calories then, or when you started?
Yeah, so maintenance calories then, so recalculating your maintenance calories from your new body weight. I tend to take it from a couple of weeks out, but body weight at that point, and recalculate maintenance from there. And it depends as well on who you are. If you know your client really well, so if we're talking about working with clients, if you know your client really well, and you know that they're maybe prone potentially to binging, or they've mentioned before that they've had issues with that in the past, then you can go a little bit higher to make sure that they're full. Or if it's yourself, if you know that you're of that mentality, then just put your calories a little bit higher. I think it seems really counterintuitive and people are scared to do it. But it's the best way to reduce your overall weekly intake because it does reduce your binging.
Yeah, there's no getting away from it. I think people, they're still like, oh, I'm still dieting, or, I'm still really low calories. And it's like, well, you're not if you're putting on that amount of weight. Like something's going wrong here, and you're much better to be eating a bit more every day. And as well as me, like coming out of a dieting phase, like you're in such a great position to sort of grow and adapt to your training again. And like, I think from a mindset point of view, really focusing on, wow, look how strong you are now. Look at all this stuff you can do now that a couple of weeks ago, like you were struggling to walk the incline on the Stairmaster or whatever it was. And now you can do your sprints again, and like really trying to get people excited about performance at that stage, because actually, you know what, you are going to have to put on a bit of body fat and you might not look as good like to you as you normally would, or you would look stage lean all the time. So having that shift in mindset towards maybe a performance goal.
Yeah, I think that's really, really, really important. Focusing on the numbers, log in your compound lifts. Just that alone, having those numbers there, like you said, it switches that focus, and it does take conscious effort. It does take conscious effort to get out of your own head and focus on strength. But especially if you're a competitor, you need to build muscle. Generally speaking, a female competitor generally needs to gain a bit more muscle. Most of us, especially in those first few shows, and so that's a key time to do it. So focusing on your list, and also focusing on taking the emphasis away from cardio. And I think that, again, a classic mistake that people make post show and post diet is keeping going with their over too much cardio, and then they start equating it with, they'll have a binge and then they'll say, well, I'll go and do 400 calories on my Fitbit tomorrow instead of cardio. Oh, my little brother's just popped up at the bottom there, so I just noticed his name. And I think that people then get into that cycle of thinking cardio is the way to burn it off, and so getting out of that cardio focus and onto the strength focus is really important.
Mm-hmm. So are you competing again?
No.
You tired or not this year?
I am never competing again. Yeah, it doesn't really align with what I focus on for myself anymore. I'm 32 and I really want my body to be in a really healthy place for babies and for families and for friendships and all of those things that are really important to me in the next 10 years. You know, competing isn't really aligned to that anymore.
That is interesting. I think a lot of people in fitness go through that, and I think coming back to like this life balance and things like that, that actually competing is a really selfish pursuit, and as much as it's an amazing achievement, it's probably something you want to do when you're kind of young, or maybe not, age might not be the thing, but like when you're in that place in your life where you can be quite selfish, you can be very structured, you can put a lot of time and effort into that. And then as you get older, you kind of think, I've been there, done that, maybe don't need to do it again. Maybe there's other things I want to put my energy in.
Yeah. And it's not a negative on the sport. Like, I love the sport, and if I started younger, I would have gone on for longer. But for me, I don't want to be standing on stage against, 23-year-old girls who have been training for 5 years, and I'm 32 and I've been training for 6 years, and to me, it's not something I really want to be doing. I wouldn't feel in my element there up against all these beautiful young competitors. I'd rather be there supporting them and helping them get off stage. That's more where my passion is now, and I don't really want to put my body through that diet. You know how it is. You putting that stress on your body is a lot, and I can't justify it anymore. Yeah,
well, you've been there, done that, and you're not coming to SFN, are you?
No. When is it again? This weekend?
Yeah, this weekend.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I've got life things on this weekend. So no, I'm not. But it'll be. You're talking, aren't you?
Yeah, I think it's quite chilled though. But you are Scottish, aren't you? Weren't you from Edinburgh?
Well, I'm from Fife. And my mum's in Edinburgh now, so that's where I go back to all the time.
I see.
But I went to Dundee, that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, I mean, Dundee is really great.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, definitely need to. Do we have any questions? People just saying you're really hot. I mean, you are. True. Dan didn't really explain his question that well. I think what he meant was you maybe go from tracking, and then as soon as you take like the emphasis of tracking away, people just go way off.
Oh yeah, a deliberate push in the opposite direction from tracking itself, and the thought of being too overwhelming. No, I've never experienced that before. No, I think I've never had any clients go from tracking to completely intuitive, so they've never had that opportunity to completely go the other way. Have you had that?
Yeah, same. I mean, I wouldn't just say to someone like, I know that you track every day, but now we're just going to stop
Yeah.
and delete the. So, you know, you do it like quite slowly, and I guess that's the whole thing. But I think you sort of touched on it, that there is this camp that's like, you know, food is food. It's not macros. It's not calories. It's, you know, you shouldn't be tracking. You should just so. And then people get in that mindset, like, oh, should I not be doing this?
Yeah.
Am I doing it wrong?
It drives me nuts. If we could all intuitively eat, then 30% of our population wouldn't be obese.
Yeah.
And I really hate that diet culture didn't make us obese. Overeating made us obese, and not listening to our intuition made us obese. And I think that camp, I don't particularly like any of the two extreme camps, but I think it can be really detrimental to people that have been tracking for ages, and then they just think this is the only way to go because I am health, and healthy people don't track, I think. And it does annoy me.
Yeah. I guess what you were saying about, you know, if we could all eat to our hunger levels, like that would be great. But the thing is, we don't eat just because we're hungry. You know, we eat for social occasions, we eat for emotional reasons, we eat because we enjoy it.
Yeah.
We're overeating for so long that we're not as sensitive to our hunger hormones and our hunger feelings anymore. So we can't be as intuitive as maybe we were one day. You know,